Coming up on today's show, Consumer Reports and Tesla argue over Model 3 reliability. We see some of the concept cars from the Tokyo Motor Show, and a DIY electric car conversion travels 995.5 miles, that's 1,602 kilometers, on a charge. That's enough to drive from my studio to Los Angeles without stopping. These stories and more coming next on 10. This is 10 from Transport Evolved, the roundup show that takes the week's news in the world of cleaner, greener, safer and smarter transport and gives it to you in a bite-sized form just in time for the weekend. So sit back and enjoy. It's Friday, October 27th, 2017. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield and I have a little error from last week's show that I need to fix concerning the Netherlands and the reported ban on internal combustion engines from 2030 onwards that I reported on last week. When I covered it in last week's show, I implied that the ban was already law, when it's actually just part of the policy documents released by the new Dutch government that it hopes will become law by 2030. I'm sorry for the mix-up, but when getting stuff wrong, it's always good to apologise. Last week, I brought you the news that Tesla had unexpectedly laid off somewhere between 200 and 700 employees across the company, ranging from factory floor workers and sales staff to engineers and management. At the time, I said there appeared to be some dispute as to the reason, with Tesla officially stating the layoffs were the result of annual performance reviews, and those who had been let off disagreeing quite vocally, as you might expect. Well, this week, it seems some of those dissenters and union workers at Tesla protested the layoffs by walking through Tesla's parking lot and blocking off supercharger access before entering into Tesla's delivery centre. It's not clear how the protest ended, but Tesla did issue a statement denying workers were laid off because they were trying to unionise the workforce, adding that 17% of its workforce were actually promoted after the same performance review that it said led to the mass firings. I'll leave you to make up your minds as to which side to believe. It's official. The Chevrolet Bolt EV is Chevy's most reliable vehicle on sale today. At least that's the verdict of the annual Consumer Reports Auto Reliability Study, which placed the Chevy Bolt at the top of Chevy's reliability charts with a very reliable rating, reiterating yet again that electric vehicles are usually more reliable than internal combustion engine ones. Overall, other plug-in cars did well in the reliability survey too. Of note is Tesla, whose Model X continued to receive subpar reliability scores due to a large number of reported problems with its Falcon Wing doors and other trim items, but whose Model S achieved its own highest reliability score to date, above average. This led Consumer Reports to predict that the Model 3 would achieve average reliability in its first year of production, something that upset Tesla and caused it to bitterly complain, despite average reliability ratings being extremely hard for any new car in its first year. Consumer Reports responded that Tesla didn't appear to understand the rating system, and the war wages on. Get out the popcorn. Over the past few years, we've seen cities around the world pledge to either ban internal combustion engine vehicles from their streets completely or ban the sale of new internal combustion engine vehicles after a set date. And this week, we heard about 12 cities who've just taken the next logical step by committing to only buying electric buses for their mass transit systems from 2025 onwards. The 12 cities in question, London, Paris, Los Angeles, Copenhagen, Barcelona, Quito, Vancouver, Mexico City, Milan, Seattle, Auckland and Cape Town, made the pledge as part of the official C40 Fossil Fuel Free Streets Declaration, which includes a pledge to reduce the number of polluting vehicles on their streets, increasing the rates of walking and cycling, and working with public and private partners to lead by example to accelerate the shift to zero-emission vehicles. So well done all 12 cities, and here's to hoping that this agreement is kept too. With so much apparent ambition to take over the electric vehicle world and dominate it by 2020, Volkswagen has been pretty vocal over the last 2 years on its plug-in strategy, but to date, it's very little to show for it. But as Car and Driver this week detailed, Volkswagen seems to be looking to recreate the brand's image of the 1960s by bringing back some of its older brand names with an electric twist. Of course, we've already heard that the Volkswagen microbus is coming back as the ID Buzz EV, and now it appears that Volkswagen is looking to its modular electrification toolkit platform as a way of bringing back other classics, like the Kubelwagen, or Thing as it was called in the US, as well as perhaps a Doom buggy. It's unclear if they'll ever see the light of day, but while I love Volkswagen's sudden nostalgic feel, I'm getting a little fed up with the lack of decent long-range models. How about you? If you're watching this show in the US, you'll probably know that the Chevrolet Bolt EV has had an interesting past year, first suffering some pretty unimpressive sales figures after the initial rush of launch, leading to a bit of a glut of vehicles in certain key markets in the US, before then achieving a much higher sales figure across the US in the last 2 months. Even today, some dealerships in key markets are literally throwing Bolts at customers, while other dealerships can't get one for love or money. Over in Europe, where the Bolt EV is sold as the Opel Ampera-E, things are even weirder, because this week Opel asked Norwegian dealers to stop taking orders for the Ampera-E because it just isn't getting enough Ampera-E's shipped over to Europe to satisfy demand, and it doesn't know when that will be fixed. Even though Opel has now divorced from GM, GM is still obliged to provide Ampera-E's to Opel for the lifetime of the model, so it almost feels as if someone doesn't want the Ampera-E to succeed, especially when there's still a healthy stock of Bolt EVs in North America just waiting for buyers. If you're a Tesla owner, or you know one who's ever been visited by a Tesla mobile service technician, you'll know they turn up to work on Tesla's famous high-performance electric cars in a gas-guzzling or diesel-chugging van, usually something like a Mercedes Sprinter. And let's be honest, that's not the best image for Tesla as a super green automaker now, is it? Well, at the end of last week, we learned that Tesla's changing that from 2018 onwards, after some of its clever engineers have figured out how to fit everything a Tesla mobile service engineer needs inside a heavily modified Tesla Model X. In other words, Tesla will soon be building its own service vehicles based on the Model X to make its entire service fleet zero tailpipe emissions. Nice job, Tesla, and way to cut costs too. In case you didn't know, this week marked the start of the annual Tokyo Motor Show, and this year, both autonomous and electric vehicles have played a heavy part with concept cars and teasers of future production models from a wide range of automakers. Following on from last month's second-generation Nissan Leaf launch, Nissan used the Tokyo Motor Show to unveil its IMX crossover SUV, a long-range, high-performance, all-electric car capable of autonomous or manual mode driving. As I'm sure you'll remember from last week's show, the hope was that we'd see a production-ready electric SUV, but sadly that didn't materialise, and while the IMX is a neat-looking plug-in concept, it's certainly not a car we'll see in production in its current form anytime soon. What we did see, however, in its place was a Nismo concept of the all-new 2018 Nissan Leaf with the same kind of performance as a Ford Focus RS. What makes this interesting, however, is that the Nismo Leaf looks like a vehicle which I think could enter into production next year. Indeed, it could even be a higher power, longer range Leaf that Nissan has been promising us. There was also a refrigerated version of the Nissan ENV200 cargo van, but sadly there's no B-roll of that I can share here. Hopefully, however, that will enter into production soon too. Over at Toyota's booth, meanwhile, Nissan's main rival was sticking to its guns with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, debuting 2 new concept vehicles that I previewed on last week's show. In addition to those, however, Toyota was pushing the Concept I Trio that debuted at the start of this year in Las Vegas at CES, as well as a Segway-like personal mobility vehicle called Walk. Yeah, I know. The irony. While these 2 vehicles aren't really worth getting super excited about, however, Toyota has started to seriously talk up its solid-state battery technology, and despite sticking to its guns in backing hydrogen, says it now has game-changing solid-state battery technology that will soon be ready for market and allow it to do for the EV what it did for hybrids. Given Toyota's past love-hate relationship with EVs, however, I'll believe it when I see it. Perhaps most interesting, though, was Honda's sports EV concept car, a 2-seat sports coupe which seems to strike a nice balance between retro-inspired design and futuristic EV awesomeness. Small and perfectly formed, it reminds me a little of the old 1300 coupe in terms of size, and, says Honda, it could enter into production as early as 2019 to become the first model in a new family of electric vehicles for the brand. Sadly, there's no word on specs, but if it makes production, it could be the first small, nimble EV sports car we've seen since the Tesla Roadster. Alongside the Honda Sports EV concept, Honda also displayed the Honda Riding Assist E, a self-balancing electric motorcycle which uses the same technology found inside Honda's Unicub personal mobility device and could help, perhaps, keep motorcyclists on their bikes a little more. As a biker though, I'm not sure I'd want the disconnect between the handlebars and the wheels that this concept has. I guess it's like power-assisted steering, right? Making a little detour from cars and motorcycles, Daimler Mitsubishi Fuso was in Tokyo unveiling something a little larger this week in the form of the e-Fuso Vision 1 concept, a long-range, heavy-duty truck capable of travelling up to 350 kilometres, that's 217 miles, per charge, while carrying up to 11 metric tonnes of payload. A preview of what the brand is working on for the near future, the e-Fuso Vision 1 was also unveiled as a celebration of the foundation of a brand new Daimler Mitsubishi Fuso brand called e-Fuso, which will operate alongside Fuso's internal combustion engine lineup, but will only offer electric-only options. The first production vehicle, the e-Fuso e-Canter, which is already entering service for 7-Eleven, Yamato, UPS, Habitat for Humanity, the Wildlife Conservation Society, and the New York Botanical Garden. Finishing up the Tokyo Motor Show coverage, and yes, there are other vehicles I've not covered in depth, like the weird-ass Yamaha Motoroid autonomous electric motorcycle, the Suzuki e-Survivor, and the Daihatsu DN Pro Cargo, which is super cute. But I'm going to touch base on the Mitsubishi Evolution concept, a car that's taken Mitsubishi's legendary Evolution nameplate and added a little spark of electricity. Unlike its namesake, which was very much a gas guzzler, the E-Evolution is a powerful electric crossover SUV that makes use of onboard artificial intelligence, which concept doesn't these days, and says Mitsubishi will coach you on your driving style to help you become a better driver. The question, would you really want your car becoming a backseat driver? No. Me neither. If there's anything that the last 10 years has taught us about the startup transportation world, it's that there are always people trying to revolutionise the way we get from point A to point B, be it through capsules in tubes of partially evacuated air, self-driving cars, or even passenger drones. And this week, Israeli firm Eviation Aircraft hit our radar. Calling itself a cross between Uber and Tesla in the sky, Eviation hopes to commercialise autonomous electric planes that carry up to 9 passengers across busy cities, revolutionising the way that people get from point A to point B by completely circumventing those nasty traffic jams that are becoming increasingly common in the world's megacities. That's the Tesla bit. But what about the Uber? Well, apparently the goal of Eviation is to create skyways of elevated travel tracks consisting of hundreds of autonomous intelligent aeroplanes. And if you want to use one, you just hail it with your phone, just like an Uber. It's an interesting prospect, but I'm not sure I want to trade busy streets for busy skies. What do you think? If you've ever spent any time driving an electric car that isn't a Tesla, you'll be familiar with the horror that is carrying around a dozen different RFID smart cards that each give you access to a different charging network. And you've probably got more than just a little jealousy for Tesla owners who just have to turn up, plug in and charge. No messing around with tags required. Well, European charging manufacturer ABB EV has quietly unveiled AutoCharge, a new technology for its CCS quick charging stations this week that automatically bills you for your charging sessions based on the unique vehicle identification code sent as part of the handshake that occurs as part of every quick charging session. Sadly, it's only coming online in Europe for now, and it's only for CCS quick charging, but it makes you wonder why automakers and charging providers didn't think of coming up with such a simple solution a long time ago. Anyway, if you're a European who has a CCS car, let me know what it's like to charge with no RFID tags if you happen to live nearby to an AutoCharge-equipped ABB CCS quick charge station. Here's a quick question for you. Last month, which automaker sold the most plug-in vehicles globally? Tesla? Nissan? Renault? If you answered any of the above, you'd be wrong. That's because the answer is BMW, which proudly proclaimed that during the month of September, it totaled more than 10,000 plug-in vehicle sales globally. That's far more than any of its rivals in the plug-in marketplace. Bear in mind that this total includes both all-electric vehicles like the BMW i3, as well as plug-in hybrids across various BMW brands. But still, 10,000 plug-in vehicles on the road in 1 month. That's pretty impressive, right? And finally, you may remember back in summer, I covered Eric Lundgren's Phoenix project, a self-converted all-electric BMW 5 Series, which covered an impressive 748 miles on a single charge with help from the lovely Yehu Garcia. Well, at the time, I said Eric was looking to see if he could break the 1,000 mile per charge barrier. And just before last week's show, the team managed to cover 995.5 miles, that's 1,602 kilometers, on a single charge of the car's 133 kilowatt-hour battery pack at the Auto Club Speedway of California in Fontana. To put the distance in perspective, that's further than the iconic John O'Groats to Land's End route in the UK, and further than the distance from my studio in Portland to Yehu's office in LA. So well done, guys. Sure, you didn't hit the magic 1,000 miles, but it's still really impressive, even if you had to do hypermiling at 30 miles per hour or so to get that figure. And on that note, it's time to say goodbye for the week. As always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to make sure that you don't miss an episode. And if you like the idea of watching this show with zero ads and you don't want to give any money to Google, why not consider donating to the show's running costs by making a donation through Patreon? Donate more than $5 a month and you get early access to all new shows, and you get to see them without ads. So follow the link below or at the end of this video to find out more. As usual, I'll be back next week with more Transport Evolved goodness, but until then, thanks for joining me. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. This was 10. Have a great weekend, and until next time, keep evolving.